Can everybody hear me?
I can hear you, but I can't be seen.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Just waiting for people to come on. I ask everybody to please mute yourselves so we don't have any background noise. For those of you joining us for the first time, I give it a few minutes before we start the call, just to get everybody on. We'll start at about 9 Israel time, so in a few minutes. The people that are from Rehovot, can you unmute yourselves?
Hi, I'm Yael.
Hi, I'm Laura.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Eli.
Bless you,
We can start
Yael.
in a few minutes. Give me a few more minutes. There are loads of people coming on. So I just want to get everybody on.
I can't get up. Oh, help me out.
I love seeing everybody some of the same people every week. It's so nice. Okay, great. Okay, we'll start in about 1 minute. Let's give more people time to come on. Okay, I think we're going to start. Give me 1 second. One more person's coming on, and I'll keep adding people as we go. I don't know why it pops up on. Okay, hold on a second. Okay, let's see who else is coming soon. Okay, hi everybody. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. So that everybody knows, this call is being recorded. So if you have friends or people that could not join tonight, I will send a link. I'm still a little bit behind schedule. It's been a very busy week with all the kids at home. For those of you who asked me about Yamim and Netanya from last week, I know that I still have to send it out to everybody, which I will do so. What I want to do is the people, even the Rehovot people, I'm going to ask you also to mute yourselves. And I'm going to list all the people that have sent me, that I think I've got everybody's names, that I'm going to ask to speak in a few minutes. Give me 1 second again. Okay, so for those of you who don't know me, my name is Kim Bash. I'm originally from South Africa, and I've been living in Israel now for the last 18 years. Unfortunately, my Hebrew is terrible. So a lot of people ask me, so how do you get around living in Israel for so long and not speaking Hebrew? I live in a very English environment. And to be honest with you, I've been very lazy. And it's one of the things I do regret, is not advancing and really doing a proper Ulpan. So it's one of the things I tell everybody who's looking to make Aliyah is to, and even now, at home when you've got nothing to do, is to take well, everybody's got something to do. What I mean is, if you've got extra time on your hand, start learning Hebrew. Okay, very, very important. It's one of the mistakes. I didn't do it an Ulpan, and it was a big mistake. So I really encourage everybody to start learning online, do whatever you can to improve your Hebrew skills. My background is in real estate. I've been working in Jerusalem for the last 10 years. And I started doing these Zoom calls about 3 months ago, when a lot of my friends were reaching out to me. We can't afford Jerusalem. We want bigger space. We want to be more out in nature. What other communities can you find for us? So I started to investigate and look into different Anglo communities around Israel that had quite a large population of living in that particular location. So it really has been on demand. A lot of people will contact me on Instagram or on Facebook, and they'll ask me to showcase a particular area. So that's how it's really been playing out. We've done a lot of different locations, and if anybody would like a list and to hear the recordings of previous Zoom meetings, I'm happy to send you that information as well. So Rehovot was one of the areas that came up a lot, because it had a lot to offer. And I thank the people that are being so gracious to give up their time tonight to share with us about this amazing community. So how it's going to work is that I'll ask the people to introduce themselves, and then to speak a little bit about the community and why they chose to live in the area, about their family, what they do, and any information that they think would be useful for people looking at Rehovot as a community that they feel would be good for them to move to. They're making Aliyah or already living in Israel. So I'd like to ask Eli Shmel to talk to us first, because he's been in the community for a very long time and is a very active member of a very well-known shul called the Berman Shul. Is that correct, Eli?
The Bermans, yeah. Eli. It's okay.
Eli, sorry.
It's all right.
Eli.
Okay. So I guess I'm the senior person in that regard. I came on Aliyah in 1987. It's about 33 years ago, with my wife, and I still have 2 daughters. They were 12 and 8 at the time. They're now 45 and 42. And I have grandchildren ranging from 7 years old to 16 years old. And I'm very blessed in that one of my daughters lives less than a kilometer away here in Rehovot. and my younger daughter lives 10 kilometers away, about 4 or 5 miles in Maskeret Batya, which is a very closely competing community nowadays. So I came with my wife. I worked in biotechnology and pharmaceuticals all my life here in Israel until I retired 3 years ago. My wife is professionally a psychologist, and she has been occupied as a teacher, a Hebrew teacher when we were in the States, and an English teacher now that we're in Israel. We're both retired, and we've been in the Berman Shul since day one. We live 2 blocks from the shul. When I came on Aliyah, we moved into the 3rd floor of this building, and now we live on the 1st floor of the building. We bought an apartment after being here for a year. So that's background on me. Rehovot has been, shall I talk about Rehovot for a moment, Kim?
Sure. Yes, absolutely.
We ended up here in Rehovot not because we wanted necessarily to move to Rehovot, we wanted to move to Israel. And Rehovot is where I found a job. I actually had a contract for a job about a year before I came. I went on several privately funded pilot trips and interviewed in a lot of biotechnology companies here over 30 years ago. And thank God got an offer, so we came to Rehovot. I won't say that there haven't been struggles as Olim, but clearly you can survive, thrive, and I don't look back for a moment. My career was probably better than it would have been even in the States, because I did have the advantage of being fluent both in the science that I do and in English, and English is critical for everyone here in Israel. Although I agree with Kim that you should learn to speak Hebrew if you want to live here. We've both, my wife and I, have had successful careers. Both of my daughters are employed. Rivka is a software person. Her husband is also, he's in operations, but in softwares companies. Our other 2 kids, one's in cyber, her husband's in cyber stuff and software, and she works as a teacher, as her mother did, here teaching English. We've been through many wars. Pandemic is a little small on us right now, because we've married 2 daughters off during wars, and been through many intifados, etc. But the entire experience has been something that I would never have forgiven myself had I not done it. So we're here for the duration, in Yirtzeh Hashem. Did I miss a point, Kim?
No, you're great. I want to talk about your shul. I want to talk about the community,
right.
because
Berman
I've heard
Shul.
that it's
Okay.
one of the most, welcoming and embracing synagogue shuls
Right.
that have done amazing things for the Olim.
So this is I don't know if it's completely unique, but it's a very special shul. I have a well-developed love-hate relationship with the shul, of course, but we also have 3 generations davening there every Shabbat. While my father-in-law was still alive at the time, Alav Shalom, we had 4 generations davening in shul. Hopefully, in the not too distant future, we will again. But the shul is unique. It was founded by English speakers here in Rehovot. It's about 45 years old, I think. I don't know the exact number. We're relatively latecomers to the shul, because the shul was founded 15 years before I came. And it's unique in that the founders were English speakers, 90% Americans, probably 5 or 10% of the Anglos, the true Anglos, and some mixed marriages with Israelis. Now the complexion of the shul is totally amorphous, in that we've had a very fortunate and blessed influx of young families couple of them are on the phone here, I think. And we have a unique situation where the younger generation is much larger than the older generation now. The founding fathers, many of whom have passed or are passing, and the ones that are still around are anxious to pass on the leadership of the shul. It's a dynamic shul. My hashkafa is a little different. My personal hashkafa is a little different. I'm a little more liberal in many of the Orthodox stream, and but the shul is unique. We have, just as an example, throughout the week there are lectures, Hebrew and in English. There's Daf Yomi, the whole 9 yards. There are many shiurim, special shiurim. The rules are, though, that we speak officially Hebrew in the shul. So if you are to give a Devar Torah, or if you are our guest speaker, you're supposed to do it in Ivrit. We have a very active, what do you call it? Not electronic, but parallel web community with our newsletter. We have an internet site. Everything is done, of course, by email and WhatsApps. So that's in a nutshell about Berman's, unless there's a type of detail you'd like to hear about. I mean, we don't have a rabbi. We have a committee that was founded by Rav Berman, who passed on, and has been led by a halacha committee of, in the past, three ordained or smicha people. Now we're starting to have a committee rather than a vad halacha, and that is that we retain 3 decision-making rabbis, but we're also adding lay people to that. We're calling it now a board committee, so that people can have more input. We try very much to, let's put it this way, the community is well over 200 families now, maybe 300 families. And on any given Shabbat, there's probably 100 to 200 children running around outside. And, there's probably, maybe 100 outside and 100 inside or something like that. But we have a thriving young generation, which we love.
I've seen. It's been amazing. That's great. Thank you so much. So now I'm going to ask Linnea with the baby on her shoulder.
Hi.
Mazel tov.
Thank you. So my name is Linnea. I grew up in San Diego and moved to Israel 6.5 years ago, and met my husband here. He's Israeli, and grew up in Jerusalem. And we were living in Jerusalem when we were first married, and just kind of randomly ended up in Rehovot. We loved Jerusalem, but we knew that we wouldn't stay there forever. It's very expensive to buy in Jerusalem. And we had really good friends that happened to move to Rehovot, and they said that they liked it, so we just came. We never came for a Shabbat. We didn't check it out. We just said, let's go for it, and moved here. And it was maybe a crazy decision, but we're extremely happy here. We moved here about 5 years ago, and we're part of the Berman Shul, which is another big, mostly Anglo shul. There are plenty of Israelis as well. I would say a little bit over half of the shiurs are in English, maybe more than that. We have 2 rabbis. The founding rabbi is Rav Stein, and then more recently, about a year ago, we brought in Rav Aschenberg and his family, and they've been wonderful for our community. I guess it could be described as like a Haredi or Hardal type shul. It's a nice mix of people, and we're very happy there. I have little kids, so I can't speak so much about schools yet, but we've been very happy with the GANs or kindergarten daycare options that we've sent our kids to, and in general, just very happy with our Rabam and the things that the shul offers. Really lovely community. Help each other out, make meals for each other, take care of each other. Everyone's always checking in, and like even through coronavirus times, they had this program for buddy families. If there's a family that wasn't able to leave their house, we were able to set each other up and run errands for each other. One of the things that we really liked about Rehovot is like that it's very central. There's good transportation. I work in a city called Modi'in. It's like a 25-30-minute drive from here. My husband right now is working in Jerusalem. It's like a 40-minute drive. There's the train to Tel Aviv, takes 30-ish minutes. So we like that it's central and can get everywhere pretty easily, not too much traffic. We liked that it's a major city in Israel, but it's also kind of a smaller city. There's like a mall and plenty of grocery stores and lots of options for schools and things like that. But it's also not this like very busy, crazy place, like Tel Aviv or Jerusalem, which they also have their benefits. But we like that there's not traffic just going down the streets. In general, we've been very happy with Rehovot. Can't imagine leaving Rehovot. I like that there's different English-speaking communities and everyone gets along really well. We all have different classes together. Eldad, who's going to be speaking in a little bit, his wife used to host a monthly shir that invited all English-speaking communities. Like we might have different shuls, but we all come together, and it's really, I think, a really nice community because of that. Like the broader English-speaking community, like all gets along really well, and that was like very appealing to us.
And tell me about the guns for the kids. Is there a lot of variety?
Yeah, so we've tried a bunch of different ones with like our different kids, and we've sent like a ma'on, which is like private, but with like bigger rooms, and we've sent to a mishpachton, which is like a few kids in someone's house. Now our son is going into Gan Chova, and we're sending him to Gan Eitz Chaim, which is founded by Rav Stein, who's the Rav of Chatam. We've sent to the Iriya Gan as well, and we're happy with it. So there's a lot of opportunities for different guns to find something that fits well for you and your family.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
I'm going to now ask, is Afira and Ari on the call? Oh, hi. You need to unmute yourself.
Hi.
Hi.
My husband's Ari. He might come at some point. Right now, he's not, but he's on the phone. I'll try to step in.
No problem. No problem. We got you.
Okay. We made Aliyah about 5 years ago to Rehovot. We basically ended up here because we were looking for somewhere. My husband was working in Tel Aviv. He already had a job there. We wanted somewhere that was centrally located, like also close to Yerushalayim, so we can go there when he wanted to, and close to Tel Aviv. And we found Rehovot, and we liked the community. My husband grew up in Manhattan, so he liked the idea of having, I would have loved a suburb, but he liked the idea of having, a city there. But Rehovot is actually kind of like a nice balance between, it's not a huge city. So that's basically why we ended up here. We also really like that it's a huge mix of people. And it's a very peaceful city. You don't have a lot, even though there's a mix, you don't have a lot of infighting. You have a lot of different types of people living in the same areas. So we really like that. And also we kind of not just committed to one place. Like you don't have to just, be part of like this shul and that's it. And then, you can try out this shul, you can go to a different part of Rehovot for something else, go to a different, but there's so much to offer because it's a city. So that's what basically we really liked about it. We found Beit Heinfeld, which is, I think, pretty unique because it's about 40% Anglo. So it's not, a completely American shul, and it's not completely Israeli. I mean, I don't think anybody would consider it to be an Anglo shul. Everything is in Hebrew there. because you have fully Israelis there. So they don't have any English programming. My Hebrew is not great because I work from home in America. So, and I still manage there. There are enough Anglo, there first of all 40% Anglo, so there are enough Anglos there that, you know, I can speak to them. And the Israelis are well educated and understand English. So if I slip into an English word here or there, it's totally fine and I can completely get by. So we really like that because we really wanted to give our kids a chance to, you know, integrate and be in that kind of community. And the Anglos there also are for the most part very integrated. It has a significantly older community. It's been around for a while, and so when we came there, we were one of the fewer younger families, and they were super welcoming to us. We were so happy that we were there. Since then, there have been more, I think, and now there are probably around 14 families with school-age kids. That doesn't mean necessarily little kids. It could mean bigger kids also, but with kids in school. But they have a Shir Yuladim in the shul. They have a candy man. There's a park right outside the shul. It's a really great environment for our kids. Like, we'll go to the park, and my kids will run into, you know, for a second, and they don't have to stay there, you know, and bother everybody. They'll run in and run out, and I'll be in the park. And so we really like that. The Rav there made Aliyah when he was 4. So he's fluent in English, but he's also Israeli. So I think that's also a really good balance, because you have somebody who understands the fact that we're Olim, but also knows a lot about what it is to be here. I guess I have a daughter in first grade who's going to second grade now. So we have experience with one school with my other kids right now. She's in Noam Benot. I should say, like, the hashkafa of the shul is probably, I don't know if they even officially have a label, but I think would be considered Torani. You know, they're very, very serious. It's a very serious place. You know, they're machmir. I really hate these describing things. But they're Sioni. That would describe the shul, and I think that's pretty much also what described Noam Benot is officially Mamlechti Dati Torani. And it's, you know, you do have. Sorry?
Fira, can you explain for people who don't know the terminologies of what that means?
Yeah, Torani. Mamlechti Dati means it's a public school and it's a religious school, and Torani means that it's like a little more religious, I guess. We pay a little bit extra for some extra Torah learning, but they're Sionim, Zionists, sorry. And there's like there's a big mix of a big range there. It's not necessarily like, I don't know if everybody there would consider themselves Torani. They might just send there because they want the extra Torah education, whatever. But so it's a nice range of people. But I think the administration in general fits that description, and we're really happy there with our choice. And we've sent to Gan Chova, which is basically the year before first grade. We've sent to a Gan that kind of like feeds into that school. The Gan that we've sent to before is private, so that's kind of like to sign up like years and years in advance, and it's a really great Gan. So people from everywhere go to. So I wouldn't say specifically a feeder Gan to Noam, but you have a lot of people who do go to Noam, but you have a lot of people who go everywhere because it's just a really great Gan.
Do you mind sharing with the people on the call, what kind of money are we talking if it's a private gun every month?
$1,700, but that's including afternoons. Like if you were paying for that's until 3:45. If you're paying, that's called Saron. If you're paying until the morning, until just for the half day until 1, I think probably like $1,100. But that's actually not expensive compared to other like private ganim. But I don't know of any other private ganim that are for those years. In general, I mean, I think there are probably a few. You have a lot of private ganim that are before. Basically, you have public gan, right? So that's for the 3 years before first grade, and then so for those 2 years, the first 2 years before first grade, I don't really know of any other private ganim. You have a lot of private ganim that are before. I know even in America and other places they have different names for those grades. So I've just basically got year for 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, and 5-year-olds. So the year before 3, you have a lot of private ganim. I don't know of any other private ones specifically that are for the 3 or 4-year-olds. So I don't know if I can compare that price wise to other ones, but at least to ganim that are before 3-year-olds, it's more cheap. What? Sorry.
gives a general idea. It's fine.
Yeah.
That's great. I'm going to ask thank you so much. I mean, we're going to come back for more questions. I see there's a lot of stuff going on in the chat. And thanks to those people who are answering. I'm going to ask, is he on the call? Leib? He needs to unmute himself. Hi.
Leib Chaim? Hey there.
Yes. Hi, how are you?
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it. Doing well. Baruch Hashem.
So you are representing the Chabad community, is that correct?
I am, for better or worse. I hope to do them justice.
Tell us about the community.
I'll just, everyone spoke really, really nicely and captured a lot of what makes Rehovot special. And I just would maybe highlight the idea of it's a city of a lot of Avos Yisrael, and people were touching on that, but to really have that in your mind, it's a dynamic, diverse city. It's got Weitzman, got a bunch of, professor types and students, who I play Frisbee with twice a week. You got Khatam, you got Berman, you got very Israeli, Sephardi, Yeshivish, Litvish, Chabad, very big Chabad community. You have a Hasidic community, Kretchnov, a big shul with a Rebbe. If you need a tish in your dish, you can go to Kretchnov and get a tish. Very, very eclectic. And what's beautiful is that everyone lives together in peace and harmony. And it's a really great model of what we're trying to do to the Yiddish Kehillah worldwide. So I just would preface with that. An important thing to know if you're serious about Rehovot is to check your geography. I have many friends who moved to the Chabad community of Rehovot, but we're on the wrong side of Herzl. And as anyone in Rehovot knows, the other side of Herzl is not actually Rehovot. So it's very important you check your geography, where your shuls are, where your kind of main central religious community is, kind of in this certain area of Rehovot. Hit us up later, we'll give you the details. But just a few words about the Chabad community and what brought us here. The Chabad community is really a product of the rabbi who's the leader of the Chabad community, Rabbi Gluchovsky. Maybe you've heard of him if you're familiar with Chabad. He's an internationally renowned educator and speaker. He moved to Rehovot in 1981 when there were only 18 Chabad families here. And I actually just got off a webinar that he was speaking to your mother country, South Africa, where he was describing that now in Rehovot, there's over 650 Chabad families. So in the last, call it 40 years, it's gone from 18 families to almost 700 families. It's a dynamic community with tons of schools and programs and Neshei Chabad and Fabrengens and everything the heart could desire. English speakers, Yemenites, Russians, kind of the two big communities, probably Yemenite and Russian. And just the idea that they get along so well is a testament to the Rehovot, what's in the air here. And I'll conclude with a brief anecdote about what brought us here. So my wife's a Balish Tshuva from the age of 12. And neither of her parents became frum, and she's bouncing around certain family members for the different Chagim, and she ends up in Crown Heights for Shavuos. And Rabbi Gluchovsky is every year invited to Crown Heights to speak on Shavuos in 770. And he's speaking in 770. She's 16 years old and she's in the Ezras Nashim. And he's speaking this powerful 45-minute drasha about the importance of Avos Yisrael. And she's in the Ezras Nashim. She's not Chabad. She's Litvish, Balish Tshuva, crying by how moving his message was. 16 years old. 8 years later, I get a job from Manhattan that sends me to Israel, working in Tel Aviv, need somewhere to live. She says, I want to live in Rehovot. I said, you want to live on the streets? I can't get you a nice enough apartment in Brooklyn. Now you're ready to live on the streets? She says, Rehovot, it's a city. There's a rabbi there. And I heard him speak when I was 16 years old. And I want to live in a community with a rabbi like that. leading the way. Moved to Rehovot, like someone mentioned earlier, they moved to Rehovot from Jerusalem without coming for Shabbos. We moved to Rehovot from America. I didn't know anything about Rehovot. So I come to Rehovot, and now I got to commute to North Tel Aviv because of this rabbi who has Abbas Yisrael. And I'm not very happy about that. So we get invited to him for Shabbos, and I go in there with a big chip on my shoulder. Who's this rabbi that my wife making me live in Rehovot, go an hour and a half each way because of this guy's Abbas Yisrael? And we do Shabbos, and I tell him the whole story. And as I'm telling him the story about the fact that it was his speech all those years ago that motivated my wife to move to Rehovot, I'm watching him to see if he's going to have some gaiva, some ego about how amazing the Hashgacha Pratis is. He just sits there, he strokes his beard, and I finish the story, he looks at me and he goes, well, at least somebody was listening. So he's an Anglo, he's from Detroit, grew up in Toronto, and yet he runs a very Israeli community. It is not an Anglo community, it's Israeli. Great way to learn your Hebrew, but a very strong Israeli-American subcomponent, or maybe call it international subcomponent, with South America, Brazil, Russia. So a wonderful community that integrates very nicely into the greater Orthodox community here in Rehovot. And happy to answer anyone's questions, maybe offline, about the community.
Thank you so much, Lev. Tell me, is there a Chabad school?
Oh yeah, 650 families,
wow,
big ones. Yeah, big girls' schools, high school, girls' high school. I got 4 girls, so I haven't checked out the yeshiva so much. But a lot of girls' schools, a lot of ganim, tons of ganim, the private gan. And,
right.
Was mentioned earlier, you have the gans, but right when they get to 3 or 4, it all of a sudden is government, And so you're in a very religious or very well-run operation, and you're not paying anything for school, which is kind of something that struck us as crazy once we realized what we were getting into over here. Your salaries are a little bit different than in America, but you're going to have free healthcare, you're going to have free schools, you're going to have hummus, and you're going to be in Israel.
Amen. Thank you so much. We're going to come back.
You betcha.
A lot of people have been asking me about the real estate. I usually keep real estate to the end. How it works, as I said, I specialize in real estate in Jerusalem, and I always team up with people. I always ask community members when I'm looking and researching, who is a trusted agent? Who is look after all my Anglo friends and people that are asking me? So Eldad came highly recommended. So a lot of people are asking me about real estate. So we're going to, first of all, Eldad, thank you so much for coming on. And I also want you to introduce yourself and just talk a brief about what things cost in terms of rentals. And we've been in touch over the course of the week as well. But just share with people about the real estate opportunities in Rehovot.
Okay, thank you very much. Everyone hears me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. My name is Eldad. I'm Israeli, but my wife is American. We met after the army. I went to the US. I was a counselor in summer camp, and one thing led to each other. I met my wife in Florida, and we got married over there. And the idea was that we're going to stay there. But when we had the first and the second kid over there, so I was exposed to how kids raising over there, and I decided that I want my childhood to my kids. And it took me a long time to convince my wife, but eventually she agreed. And when she agreed, I knew one thing for sure, that we have to live in Israel among Anglos, because I knew that if I'll bring her to Rishon, and this is where I grew up, after 1 or 2 years, she probably won't feel so good, and she will want to return to Florida. So I thought we're probably going to Modi'in or Anana or, the places like that. But one day she surprised me, and she told me that she wants to move to Rehovot. I had no idea that there are Anglos in Rehovot. But she told me that she found online this shul, the Berman Shul in Khatam, And she told me that also in Chabad there are English speakers. And that was 12 years ago. 12 years ago when we came, we were almost the only family who joined Berman that year. But something happened in the last 5 years. There are many, many families, Anglo family coming to Rehovot, mostly to Berman, but also many of them to Khatam and also to Chabad. I think there is a combination of reasons. The location, which is a great location between Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. The fact that there is a big high-tech industry here. Rehovot is also a city that I meet many Anglos who coming here for pilot trip. And I think one of the things that they like here that you don't have to have a car all the time. You can walk almost to any place, whether you go to the school, to the mall, to the park. You can almost walk to any place. And the other reason, the other thing, many people mentioned here, many people like their variety here. There are all kinds of people here, from totally secular to what's called the tea light, and Haredi, and Litvish, and Ashkenazim, and Sfaradim, and everyone lives together. There are two big shtibler here, like Ariel Leib mentioned, Kretschnif and I, and people doesn't have the same schedule every day. It's very comfortable. About real estate, you have there is very big variety of apartments here, from 2-3 room apartments in older buildings without elevator, to beautiful 6-room duplex and penthouse, and also private houses. There is, of course, range of prices, both in rent and sale. And like Ariel had mentioned, it's important for the people to know which community they want to be part of, and according to that, to find the right apartment or house. Kim, do you have, if you want to ask me specific?
Yeah, I would, first of all, please put your information on the chat. Please put your email address and your phone number where people can contact you directly. You can also contact me, and I can always connect you to Eldad. What can you give us, just an average? We're not holding you to it, but just what things like a 3-bedroom, not 3-room, a 3-bedroom, so a 4-room apartment in a renovated, in a newer building would cost.
Okay,
for renting and sale.
Yeah, 3-bedroom, 4-room apartment in a new building. The range will be, we're talking about buying, right?
Both. I want an average. I want to know. Just give me an estimate of what it would
cost. To buy something like that will be somewhere between 1.9 to 2.1, 2.2. It depends where exactly in Rehovot, but that's the range. And to rent something like that will be between 5,000 to 5,500. It depends where. Next to Berman Shul, it's a little bit more expensive, but that's the range. It's important to know that in those kind of building, those kind of apartment, it comes with balcony and it comes with mamad, which is a secure room. It usually comes with the Shabbat elevator, not all the time, but mostly. And of course parking and a storage. Okay, that's about this kind of apartment. 5-room apartment, which is 4 bedrooms, will be around 2.4, 2.5.
So you're looking at about $700,000 approximately, $700,000 for a little bit bigger, and about $500,000 for a smaller unit.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, and also, do you get any freestanding houses?
If I get what?
Freestanding, standalone homes.
Yes, I mean, listen. Here in Rehovot, most of the people live in apartments. Here and there, and especially I'm talking about people who want to be close to Berman, Khatam, and Chabad. Most of them will be in apartments. Maybe 15 to 20% there are townhouses. And people who coming from the States, many of them coming from houses. I know several people who made Aliyah, and they came from big houses, and of course they need to adjust themselves mentally that probably they're not going to be in the same kind of house in terms of size. But for the kids, it's heaven. Kids are walking freely to their friends. They don't need to do a play date a week in advance, and people like it a lot over there.
And everything's like you can walk from one place to the other. Like, can you walk from one side of Rehovot to the other? Like, how long will it take you to get from one shul, like Chabad Shul to Berman Shul, for example?
From Chabad Shul to the Berman Shul, it's about probably 20 minutes walk. Also, the Chabad Rabbi Gluchovsky, in the last few years, he sent some of Shluchim to open Chabad Shuls in different neighborhoods of Rehovot. So there is the main Chabad Shul, like Ari Leib mentioned, but there's also smaller Chabad Shuls in different parts of Rehovot. Chabad, Khatam, and Berman are not so far from each other. Maybe from Berman to Chabad, it's like I said, 20 minutes, and from Berman to Khatam, it's 12, 15 minutes. In the last few years, there is a very good relationship between people from those three shuls. Like Eliana mentioned, my wife, she used to host for many years a Rosh Chodesh class in our house for all the Anglo ladies, and they used to come from Berman, Khatam, Chabad, and it was a great thing. Also, I just want to mention, if people are interested, my wife happened to, she's been teaching the English program at Tachkemoni Elementary School, which is a school that many of the Anglos sending their kids to. So if someone will want information about the English program later, so there's no problem with that.
What kind of school does your wife teach at?
Tachkemoni, it's elementary school. It's an elementary dati school. Okay.
So it's all boys or all girls?
It's a mix.
Oh, it's a co-ed school. Okay.
Yeah, most of the people in Berman, they send their kids to Tachkemoni. There is also Noam School, which is separate boys and girls. There is Etz Chaim. I think most of the people in Khatam, they send the kids to Etz Chaim. And there is Chabad that, of course, the people who belong to Chabad, they send mostly to Chabad school.
Great. Thank you so much, Eldad. So please, anybody interested in real estate options, please contact Eldad. Eldad will put on his information on the chat, and anybody can also reach out to me. Thank you so much. Is Shira? Shira's on the call. Hi, Shira.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for hosting.
So tell us about yourself and why you chose Rehovot as your community.
Oh, wow. Okay. So my name is Shira Kasser. We made Aliyah from Washington, D.C. 7 years ago. And we did a fair amount of searching for what community we wanted. We based it a lot on schools and what schools I would want to send my kids to, and also the community. We had a lot of decisions to make as we were doing this. First, we had to start with whether or not we were okay with the city versus more of a yeshuv type suburban place. And then we also had to choose whether or not we wanted the community to be homogeneous or heterogeneous. We felt very, very strongly that it was important for us to live in a community that was heterogeneous. We didn't want to live in a yeshuv where everybody was exactly like us. And if you're looking for that, Rehovot is definitely not where you should be going. But we found it, and we found Khatam and the community of Khatam, and we love it. It's amazing. I've been extraordinarily happy with the schools. The schools that I'm sending my son to is Eitz Chaim Banim, and it is a Mamachti Haredi school. which is a newer concept, but it basically means that we're getting a Haredi education, but under the Misrad HaChinuch, which means he's getting full secular education at a very high level. And I'm very, very, very happy with the educational level and with the administration of the school. And they're meeting the various different needs of the class. Because it is a mamachti school, he has all of the things that you could need for, like, if you have special ed needs, or if you have, you know, kids coming from America and their needs, we have all of those taken care of like any other government school. They also recently opened a girls' school. It's Chaim Banot, which also it's up to, I think, 3rd grade right now, and it's an amazing school, and the principal is unbelievable. I'm really happy with those 2 options. And yeah, if you have any questions, you can go ahead and ask me.
Sure. Can I ask you, do you know, maybe other people do, is there anything for the kids coming in, they're a little bit older, like how they integrate them into, is there like an Orpan program for the Anglos?
So the honest truth is that if you're having older kids, because Rehovot is not mostly American, it is really, really hard to integrate. I honestly do not recommend Rehovot to people that have much older kids. And the reason is that none of the schools are, with the exception, like Eldad said, his wife teaches at Tach Kamoni, and there is a good program within Tach Kamoni, but it limits your, like, you have to be on the wavelength of like being okay with sending your kids to Tach Kamoni, and that's fine. They have very, very good services from everybody that I've heard. They're very, very good at integrating. Most of the other schools don't have as rigorous a program, and either way, you're going to have to deal with your kids really having sort of shell shock of the differences between cultural differences that they would probably have less of if they moved to a place like Ramat Beit Shemesh or even certain neighborhoods in Jerusalem that just, there's a lot more influx of Americans, and there's just a difference in terms of what the schools can provide. That's my own opinion. Of course, you'll hear other people's opinions. You know, you have to make a decision. You know, I'm very, very happy that we didn't move into an Anglo bubble, as Jen said. And there definitely are people that have done this before. Like I wouldn't want to move to a place where I'm like surrounded by people just like me and, you know, in my own Anglo bubble. But having said that, it is a very, 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 very hard adjustment for older. More research. I would say that it's like real serious research into your school's options, and you know, and you have to get your kids buy-in that they're okay, knowing that like they're coming to a place where their culture is totally different and everything's going to be harder. So
it's one of the things I tell all my clients coming is that you cannot copy paste your life, you know, into it's a reframe, and anything is an adjustment. So, you know, when I'm looking for communities, I'm looking for people for definitely a little bit of the Anglo, because I think it's important to have that soft landing experience, even if there's a large majority of Israelis, just that there's a support system for people coming in.
Right. So that's why
really
I feel like Rehovot's an amazing community. One of the things that I really like about it is because there's a small enough Anglo presence, we have that sort of like almost out of town feel. Like a lot of the people that are on this call, they're in totally different communities than me. I know them. I'm working with Sarah right now to organize something for the Lone Soldier program. I've had interactions with Yael. I certainly am friends with Ophira. There are a lot of, like, within the Anglo community, it's small enough that you can get to know, like, overall the community. And at the same time, you're within a wider sphere. So I have both, like, like big city feel almost, where I have lots of options for schools, for synagogues, for community centers, for everything like that. I have a much bigger sphere. And at the same time, I get like my sort of out of town feel within my Anglo community, that I have my friends and I have my social network and I have the people that I can rely on, and have that safety net and have that community support. So I really like that.
It sounds like it's a tremendous, amazing melting pot of people that really, have a lot of achtud, a lot of unity, which is amazing. Thank you so much. I'd like to ask Yael. Is she on the call, Yael? Oh, there you are.
Hi, that's me.
Hi, yes, hi.
I was just typing in a response.
Yes. Usually I'm on the chat, but I can see everybody's so active and I don't need to get on the chat because you guys are doing a great job. Hi, Yael, how are you doing?
Okay. Thank God, I'm good. I'm good. So
okay, tell us
this
about
is
yourself.
wonderful, and I'm so glad with what Shira said, because that was something I really felt like should be emphasized, that even though you're hearing from multiple communities tonight, it should be made very clear that one of the things that really makes Rehovot special is how the communities are able to work together. That even though we have, our own shuls and our own programming, that we also do different things together. We have WhatsApp groups that are across all communities, and we really come together, and it's really nice. And if that's your personality, this is great. I mean, that was one of the reasons why we stayed. We came to Israel 8 years ago after my husband and I finished PhDs. We were living in Cleveland at the time, which also has, by the way, an amazing community of Chabad, modern Orthodox, and Yeshivish and Litvish community, and very Zionistic. And it was a great launching pad for us to come here. I had a postdoc at the Weizmann Institute. The other thing that we didn't speak so much about, that we're talking a little bit about in the chat, is one of the interesting things about Rehovot is that you can find, and I think maybe this is part of the reason why the community is so interesting. You find a lot of people from very different backgrounds that can have very interesting intellectual discussions. Nobody's being judged about how much money they make or where they're coming from or what their yichus is. It's really about having great connections with people, having interesting conversations, and doing what needs to be done for the community and to take care of the community. That's really what sets it apart. So with Rehovot, if you're at all involved in the sciences or high tech, or you have academic degrees and you like being around those type of people, it's a great place to be. The Hebrew University Faculty of Agriculture is located directly across the street from the Weizmann Institute of Science. Directly up the road from that is Park Hamada. Mada is science, so it is a science and industrial park with a lot of high tech and biotech and agri-tech startups. So if anybody is involved in those areas, Ellie and myself can both be of assistance if you're in biotech or agri-tech. And Sarah, and I'm sure some of the other people possibly on the call, could also help people if they're in just high tech, and we can talk to you about different opportunities. There are jobs here in tech. The commuting is reasonable to Tel Aviv. Jerusalem is close, but you have to go by bus. There's not a direct train there, so that does make it a little tricky. My husband works at Ariel University, and that's about an hour and 15-minute drive. He chooses to leave early in the morning, so it will take him 45 minutes. Traffic can be a thing if you're commuting, and in that regard, you would want a car if you have any sort of commute that you can't get to by train, because it is a ginormous difference in your commuting time. Getting around Rehovot is not a big deal if you fall into a certain category. Number one, if you like to walk, it's a pleasant place to walk. It's not overly hilly or anything like that, okay? We don't have bad streets or bad roads. But, if you have to get to a doctor's appointment and you're not a person that plans in advance, then you're gonna need to take a taxi, and they're very easy to get here, or, you'll need a car. There are buses, and they do a very good job of getting you around town. And of course, there is a train stop that actually runs directly between Rehovot and Park Hamada. It comes actually literally right next to the Weizmann Institute. And that's sort of like the dividing line between Rehovot proper and the science park. So for a while, I was able to work. I attend the Berman Shul. I lived within a 15-minute walk of Berman's, and I lived within a 30-minute walk of the Weizmann Institute, and it was 25 minutes to my lab, and it was like 35 minutes when I worked in Park Amadai if I wanted to walk there. So it was very pleasant. It's very reasonable. People do it. They bicycle, they walk. It's very easy to get around, but a car it's a nice to have, but it's not a must have. You'll talk to many people who started their aliyah here and they got by for a year, 3 years without a car and then decided to get one, and it's okay. And also the community is really great about, picking up and helping out there. So
And what about shopping? Is there like a Rami Levi? What kind of supermarkets are there?
Okay, so there's tons. So there's a couple different neighborhoods, which you're hearing a little bit about, and we'll have to maybe get Eldad. I put together a map of all the mikvot, and I'm thinking it would be good if we added also like a map with all of the where the shuls are, and so you get a sense of like the different neighborhoods where people are at, because people kind of move around. So there's a new neighborhood which is closer to the Berman area, which is called the Science Neighborhood. It's called Chuzmada, and that's where a ton of new buildings have gone up, and a lot of people move there, and there's not a lot of shopping there. So that's one consideration. The closer you go to the center of town, and I think for the other communities, there is a lot more shopping. So if you know that you're going to be without a car, it's something to take into consideration, but by and large, unless you're in that one neighborhood, there is shopping. It's very easy. There's little corner stores where you can get milk and eggs and flour and, fruits and vegetables, depending what one you have. They're very easy to find. It's not like anything's crazy overpriced compared to everywhere else in Israel. It's completely fine. And the delivery service has gotten to be quite good. So if that's what you do in the States and what you've been doing because of Corona, you'll find that the same things exist here. And there's lots of different apps to help you figure out where to get your best prices for your shopping list and so on. So very easy to come by here. If I could talk about schools for a minute, Kim, I'll just mention a few things. So I have 3 children. Sure. I have a son that's 9. That's just finished 2nd grade. He's going into 3rd grade, and he is in the new Bereshit school that we just mentioned, which is kind of a new style of school. It's Mamlachti Dati, meaning it's national religious school, but it's also pushing towards this kind of like democratic ideal, which I'm not exactly sure how to describe, except that it involves the children more in the process of their own education. So they have more discussion about why do we have rules? Let's talk about what makes for a good rule for the class and things like that. And I love it. His teacher is amazing. It's phenomenal. They're not taking hardly any new students. Maybe Olim they would take, but it's a big balagan because everybody's trying to get in, and it's very hard to do so. It only goes up to 3rd grade. The other school, Takamoni, is in the Berman's kind of area. And it's also, because Berman's is the closest to the Weizmann Institute and the Faculty of Agriculture, this is where anybody with any sort of like science background, or even people that are just here for a year, 6 months, 2 years, because they're doing scientific research, that's also where they will go to shul. So that if you're wondering why Berman's is kind of a little bit of an oddball, that's about it. You're going to see at Berman's people with shaitels, people not covering their hair, partially covering their hair. Basically, like everybody is doing their avodah to Hashem, but you let everybody do their own avodah to Hashem. If somebody wants to get halakha guidance, they can get halakha guidance, but there's not any pressure to behave a certain way. It's a very accepting place and very welcoming, which is why it's kind of like blown up so much. But because it's right next to all of these scientific institutions, this is also where you're going to have the most English speakers, and the National Religious School, Takamoni, that's there, is used to handling, these kids that are coming in without any Hebrew. So they do have education programs to help them, and they do.
Oh, we lost you. Yael disappeared.
think her computer died.
Oh no. Okay. Well, hopefully Yael will come back on again. But that was very informative. That was amazing.
And
Sarah.
she's like a tour guide level
She's amazing. I want
explanation.
Yael
That
for mayor.
was
I'm following up on Yael. I don't know if
Okay.
I can do that.
Yael for
It's
mayor.
okay. It's okay.
So I'm Sarah. I also go to Berman, like a few other people. I'm going to try to say things that aren't repetitive. I moved to Rehovot from Tel Aviv, also a bit randomly. We had friends who also kind of just looked on a map, and this was in between Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, so they thought this was good. We came to Rehovot for Shabbos, and the Berman community was super friendly and really nice. So we decided to give it a try. I would just disagree with some of the people here and what they said about cars, or maybe it really depends on your neighborhood. When we moved here, we didn't have a car, and we lived in more Rehovot Hamadah, the Carmel area, that it doesn't have any shops, and it was really challenging. So I think that if you are planning on coming without a car, it's something that can be done, but you should be cognizant of where you're living because it's not always easy. I work in marketing for a high-tech company in Rehovot. My job before this was at a startup in Rehovot, so it's definitely, you can find jobs here. You know, if you're not in biotech, which I'm not, I think it's harder, but it can be done. And I'm happy to talk to you about that. I also, for a year and a half, commuted to Renana, which is less amazing. But I can also talk to you about what a commute that is not ideal is like from Rehovot. There's a lot of, you know, most of the high-tech jobs obviously are in Tel Aviv. That's what my husband does. It's about a train ride, which is pretty easy. So, you know, in terms of being a central location for work, that was one of the things that we really liked about Rehovot. Besides also friendly community, people are great. I have younger kids, so I don't really know about schools, but I can tell you a little bit about GANs, right? That there's, you know, kind of a lot of different options which people have mentioned, both for the Ma'ons, which are the littler kids, which are the private ones, or the more standard area 3 to 5 options that there are. What else is useful that I can tell you? My daughter who's 6 has CP. So if you have questions about like the special needs framework, she goes, she's in a mainstream system, but she gets a lot of different therapies through Maccabi, which is our Kupa. So I'm happy to answer questions if people have about that. And I think that's everything, unless people have questions.
Great, thank you so much. Because it's getting over an hour now, I would like to ask, is Adina? Adina's on.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, there you are. Hi. I'm glad you made it.
Yeah, sorry we came a little bit late, but we're happy to be here. Thank you so much for hosting.
It's great.
So I'm Adina Sirachmiel Freud. We made Aliyah about 1 year ago exactly, July 31st, 2019. So we just had our Aliyah anniversary. And we chose Rehovot. The first reason is because I have a brother here. I wanted to be close to family. But that's like the last reason now that we're here. So, but in a good way. I'm very close with him. So we love Rehovot because of the diversity of the community, of the different types of people that are here. It's not just like one type of Jewish type of people. We came from Long Island, New York. We have 3 children, a son who's 8, a daughter who's 4, and a son who's 2.5. And we don't necessarily have a specific community that we say like that we're part of, but we feel like connected to everybody here. We have friends in Khatam, in Berman, Chabad, all over the place. And it's just been such a welcome, you know, accepting city for us. And really what we want for our children to be part of like an environment where everybody's different. So they can just appreciate different people, and that was really important to us. One thing also that we really wanted was, we didn't want a planned community, which is something that I didn't jive with well, and I like that Rehovot is a city that's established. You have buildings, you have houses, you have green, you have like lots of different texture and environment, and I think that that's something that really spoke to me and to us. And there's lots of parks here, and it's really, really nice. What else did I want to say? My oldest child is special needs, and one thing that really drew us, that like really made sense for us, is that the school that he's in is called Tach Kamoni. It's a mamlachti dati, which means it's a religious public school. They have a special class in that school that is called a Kita Tikshoret, which means it's a communications class. And for me was like, it kind of sealed the deal, because I wanted my son to have the opportunity to be in a program where they embraced him and loved him, and in a religious environment, and he is, and it's like been amazing and so wonderful for us as a family to see our son be so happy and to thrive and to be successful, and the teachers just love what they're doing, and I don't have enough words of praise that he's in this environment, in a religious environment. So that's been really wonderful for us. Trying to think if there's anything else.
Adina, how was it with the Hebrew? Because you've only been there for 1 year.
Right. So at this point, we're asking my kids like how to say certain things. It's definitely a transition. It's definitely a challenge the first few months, but our attitude for our children was we want them to be happy and enjoy being here. So we did not put any pressure on them academically. We just wanted them to just absorb into the environment. My son, who's in the second grade in Tach Kamoni, the government supplies ulpan in school for a certain amount of hours. He got 6 hours a week. So I don't know how long that goes on for, but I think he's going to get it again this coming year as well. And he also actually goes to Eldad's wife's English class, which has been amazing for him because he continues to read and write and all that kind of stuff. And then my daughter, she's in Gan right now. She'll be in Gan Chova, which is the year before first grade, and she's learning on the job, and she's speaking better than us. And my 2.5-year-old is in daycare Ma'on, and he speaks Hebrew to us basically.
Wow.
So for them, it's been amazing. We obviously, if we would integrate ourselves more, we would probably speak better Hebrew.
Did you do Ulpan?
I did Ulpan, yes. My husband's gonna do also Ulpan, but it's still, even with doing Ulpan, it's more like technical rules I'm learning. I'm not getting as much as I want out of it, but it's my own fault. Like if I would engage more in the Hebrew speaking community, then I would probably speak better Hebrew. Amazing. I also wanted to just echo what Sarah Cole said about a car. I felt initially when we came here, I was told like maybe we wouldn't need a car so much, but I just feel like coming with children, young children, as much as it is doable to, let's say technically you can walk, I just think the convenience, I would say the stress and the challenge of not having a car to get around with like having young children, it makes it very difficult. And we learned very quickly that we did need a car, and we happily, purchased one, like a secondhand one, and it's made all the difference for us.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Jen has been holding on for a long time. How are you, Jen?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
If anyone has any questions, I know it's late and it's past time, and I'm not going to give my story other than I'll tell a funny story about my teens who I asked my kids before I got on, what is it you love about Rehovot? And my middle daughter, who's going into 10th grade or 10th grade. And she said, because it's not American. And I said, oh, okay. We've only been here for 5 years. And she said, yeah, she literally is at the point where she's talking down about we're very blessed and very lucky that we didn't choose Anglo bubbles. Whereas my son, who's older, even though he's very grateful and shows us appreciation all the time that we chose Rehovot, because even if he didn't want to, it forced him to learn Hebrew, which was really great. But because he was older, he was 12 when we moved here 5 years ago. So he has a lot of friends around the country who also moved here from Denver. So he goes to NCSY, even though he's a madrich in Sofim Datim, he still goes to NCSY to connect with his American friends around the country. And he says he's like the only one who speaks fluent Hebrew, because all his friends are from Efrat, Renana, Modi'in. And so he's very grateful that he was forced to learn Hebrew. So in that respect, they're very happy that they are in Rehovot. And then my 15-year-old doesn't want anything to do with NCSY, Anglo, anything. She's only Hebrew, to where I can't understand. Like, we did a shiputz, a renovation in our house, which we bought from Eldad, which was the best ever experience. And my 15-year-old, she was the one who dealt with all the shiputzniks, all the contractors. Like, I would have, the floor guy come and say, "Eifo Talia?" Like, "Where's Talia?" Because we couldn't do it. I mean, whatever, like, okay, negotiate with my daughter. I don't know. So the kids get fluent here, whether they like it or not, which is a beautiful thing. And my youngest is 12. And even though my older daughter chose Amit Banot because of the Beit Midrash, like the Doraita program, which was Dati, and she is flourishing. And I can't say enough. Nobody's talked about the older schools, but I cannot say enough about the program she's been in at Amit Banot. The principal there she's won endless awards, and she has turned that school around. That school is like amazing. So she's in a Doraita program there, which is phenomenal. And then my other daughter now chose Pelach instead, which is a private school, but Pelach has schools all around the country, and it's Dati, but it's not like as Dati as her program. And it's a girls' school, and it's an amazing school, and you have to apply to get in. So they chose different paths. And then my son was he's still at Yeshivat Amit Amichai. So that I have mixed reviews about, to be honest. But there's a few schools in Rehovot for boys. But it depends on the teacher, it depends on the year. And they've tried. They've given him a lot of attention and a lot of any needs that as an Anglo needs, special needs, that they give, for sure they give. And also my kids are graduates of Eldad's wife, Tasha. So they all still know fluent English, thank God. So, and I was in an apartment. I came from a big house in Denver, Colorado, gave up everything, including a job, and moved to an apartment, was totally traumatized with PTSD with a dog and 5 of us in an apartment. And now we found, we got our forever home, at least forever for a few years, in Avnei Chen, which is an amazing community where Yael also lives. Sarah's close to us. So it's a townhouse, so it feels like a house. And then, you go from a house in America, you go to an apartment in Israel, and then you just go to a townhouse and you feel like you're in a mansion. So it's all perspective. It's all relative. You get used to it. And being in Israel is the only thing that matters. And this, even though we have 0 family here whatsoever, they're all back in America, Berman's has become our family. And I cannot emphasize enough. We had health emergencies and issues, and so many things happened since we've been here. The community is family. Like, that's it. Like 2 o'clock in the morning, I need to go to the hospital. Come. Everyone comes, drops everything, like whatever, brings meals for weeks. I mean, the community is family, and it's not like I came on a pilot trip everywhere else in the country for Shabbat. So did my husband. We didn't like Rehovot as the city. We're like, ugh, it's a city. We're from Denver, Colorado. You can eat off the streets. This is Rehovot. Renana's clean. Modi'in's clean. But the people, we kept coming back to the people. And I to this day, 5 years later, I wouldn't pick anywhere else. The people are the best in the world here, hands down. That's it.
That's amazing. It's becoming one of my top 3, I think. Out of all the places I've done, I think Rehovot is definitely on the top 3 now, because it just sounds like such a welcoming, amazing place.
Our neighbors are Temanim, Ethiopian. My daughter's a madricha for all Ethiopian kids. All of our neighbors are Yemenite, half Chiloni, like secular, half religious. It's a diverse mix, so they're exposed to everything. So they're learning about the Ethiopian holidays at school. They're learning about religious, about secular. Very, very Zionist community, very Zionist schools. So for me, as a Baal Tshuva also, who's not like there and dragging my husband by the hair, like it's, I need a mix of everything. So this community is very accepting and a mix of everything.
Thanks, Jen. Thank you so much. Yael, welcome back.
Sorry about that. Turns out my power cord had been hijacked earlier in the evening and I didn't realize it. So, yeah.
No problem. It keeps us, my internet is unstable. I hope everybody's been hearing us. Okay.
It's okay.
It's a little bit, it's okay. So what I'm going to do is, because it's already 1 hour and 20, I can't believe how quickly the time goes. We've lost a few people on the way. I also want to say that because it's school holidays, I've had a lot of people say they couldn't get on the call tonight, because usually we get about between 80 to 100 people on, because a lot of people have their kids at home. A lot of people just could not commit to this time. So I thank you all so much for staying on for so long, those who did. And I will send out a recording, God willing, for those who want it. Please, Eldad, people are asking for your email. Please put it on the chat.
He listed it.
And he did, great. I haven't checked. This is the first time I haven't been checking because you guys are so active. I love it. So my email is Kim, KIMLBASH, @gmail.com. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram. Just to give people a heads up, next week we're going to be doing Kamiel, because that's a lot of people have been asking me about that. And that will be the end of the series until the end of the summer, and then we'll start up again. What I want to do is open up for the people who've been on the call from Chutz La'aretz. If they want to ask questions, we're going to, please just unmute yourself and address anybody from Rehovot on the call. So open for questions.
I have a question. Hi, Kim. I'm
Hi,
Rachel.
how are you?
Good, Baruch
Yes,
Hashem.
good. Good
I
to
have a
see you.
question.
Good.
I think it's Adina and maybe even Sarah had the kids with the special needs or information about that. And the question I have is, I have a little 6-year-old with Down syndrome. And luckily with this whole COVID thing, he's actually learned the Hebrew alphabet that I've been working with him. But I'm just wondering if anyone knows anything about like immigrating with a child with special needs, like if they'd be able to pick up the language, if there's good services there, how the teachers are like are they welcoming and accepting? So that was my question. Oh, with Sarah, okay.
Yeah, no, I don't have so much to offer you there. But my daughter was born in Israel.
Okay, fine.
And has CP, cerebral palsy, so it's very different than Down syndrome.
Right, it is, right.
But I just wrote in the chat that there is a Special Needs Israel Facebook group that I definitely recommend joining and asking your question there. And I think that you will, I think it'll be a good place that you'll get answers.
For sure, okay, thank you.
So I can speak a little bit to this. My son has autism, and he was 2, almost 3 when we made Aliyah. So language was an issue, okay? And my mother-in-law is a college professor of early childhood education in Canada. So she was really like, we had this discussion about whether or not Aliyah was really going to work for him, and if we were going to have to go back once it really became apparent that this was going to be his diagnosis. And after about 3 months, it became very clear to us and to my mother-in-law that the quality of care and the quality of the services here surpassed whatever we were getting in the States and whatever could be offered in Canada through their own social services system. I have to say, we were blown away. For younger children, the integration programs, my son is at Takamoni, which is a religious elementary school, but he's in a special class that actually encourages this integration program. It's amazing. Israel does a phenomenal job with this, and you shouldn't hesitate at all, and definitely join that Facebook group because they're really great.
Thank you so much, Elle.
I sent the link over in chat. I found it.
Oh, thanks, Sarah.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thanks so much.
I'll echo what Yael said. Also, my son's in the same program, just a grade younger, and just the
What's the program called again?
The school is called Tach Kimoni, but the class itself for that they're in is called a Kita Tikshoret, which is a communications class. So it's a little bit different than probably what your child is going to need. There might be some special schools in Rehovot. I'm not 100% sure about that specifically. But it's been the reception for special needs here is was the sealing of the deal of us moving to Israel. That was like the make it or break it, whether we were going to come. But when I heard and I did the research about what they offer special needs, and I just I couldn't not come. It had to be. And we're incredibly happy that we made this decision. And it's been really life-changing for us and my son.
So I know that Israel in general is very good with special needs, but I guess certain communities are better than others in terms of what they have to offer. So I was just wondering, with Rehovot, you all are very happy, it sounds like, with what you get there.
The other thing that you should look into when you join this group is, and I don't know, Adina, if you did this, but we did, which is in Israel, you have different health the different health funds, right? And it's sort of like the socialist but not kind of situation where they actually compete for people to join the health funds, right? So they're trying to provide different services. So one of the things that you should be asking is which of the kupot provide the best services for your child's disability. So we chose our health service because they particularly provide very good services for children with autism, and it covers a lot of the costs of the therapies and stuff. And the therapies are done in the classroom, in the schools, which is amazing. So your kids are getting a religious education and their therapy. It's like, you can't beat it. There's nothing
makes
like
me want to cry.
Amazing.
Been there already.
I have there's someone in our community at Khatam that works with children with special needs, and if I can give you my email address, I can connect you with her. She could probably tell you about the school in Rehovot that has children with Down syndrome.
Oh, that would be great. I would really appreciate it.
I'll put my email in the chat, and you can write to me, and I'll give you her email address.
Okay, for sure. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. You all are so wonderful.
Does anybody else have any questions on the call? I know somebody asked about the singles scene.
So remember, there's all the students, right? There's postdocs, which are people that have finished PhDs. So you have people in their late 20s and early 30s as well. Now, as far as religiosity and single scene, there's not a lot going on here, but it's easy to get to communities like Givat Shmuel, which is closer to Tel Aviv, and they have a very active young community. So we see some people go there, they find a beshert, and then they come back to Rehovot or whatever. But Rehovot, it just depends on what your hashkafa is and what you're looking for, but it does exist.
Ella, somebody asked about the girls' high schools. Again, if you're looking for religious, maybe somebody can talk about high schools that are more religious than where my girls go, but Amit Banot is one of the religious girls' high schools, and there's different programs there. There's a Beit Midrash program, there's a mainstream program, and then there's a Doraita program, which is a little bit more dati. So they have different programs there depending on what your needs are or what your child's needs are. So that's 7th through 12th grade. And then also Pelach, which is a private school, not private school costs like we were paying in Chutz La'aretz, but private school. Pelach is also a really interesting, amazing school. That's one of the reasons I came to look at Rehovot in the first place, which was funny because my oldest daughter didn't even choose it, but that's one of the reasons that drew me to Rehovot. And then religious boys school, grade 8. There's Yeshivat Amit Amichai, where my son is. There's also Yeshivat Hadarom, which is also a really good school yeshiva, and other people can talk about more if there's more. And then somebody asked about chugim. There's tons and tons and tons of chugim. My daughter was the only girl in a boys basketball team at Tach Kamoni for years, and she really kicked their butts for many years, which was fun. There's ninjutsu, which are religious, non-religious boys, girls. There's basketball, soccer, any chugim, any chug that you're looking for is available. My kids have taken hip hop dance very cheaply through the matnas, through the community center, as well as a private center, swimming chugs. There's plenty of chugim. Any chugim you're looking for, they have for sure. And people can direct you there. Yeshivat Hadarom, theater. Anybody else want to talk about other high schools that I missed? Yael? Oh,
yeah,
Yasmin.
I'm just going to mention, because I had a different experience. My daughter is going into 9th grade this next year. And so Jen talked a little bit. Now, her daughter hit it off great at Amit Girls School. So in the Mamlakti Dati area, like it's basically that. There is a Keshet school, which none of us really talked about, that is a mixed religious and not religious school, which just has a high school as well. My kids don't go there. My daughter applied to
reviews. Keshet
has very good reviews.
Not in Rehovot, yeah.
There's also Zarkor for younger kids.
Right.
Which is it's a private school that's a similar idea to Keshet, I think. Right. In terms of religious and non-religious mixed.
So the one thing about Amit, though, that I would say with the girls' school that I think people should be aware of is that with Amit girls, as Jen said, they have these different levels. And so my daughter, for her first year of, because like middle school, high school starts at 7th grade here. So she went there because it was walking distance, and because Pelek, which was maybe a little bit more like who we are and what we wanted, was just too full. Her grade was just like so full because girls are coming in from all over the country and a lot of Anglos go to that school. And it was just too full for her grade. She was on the waiting list. She didn't get in. So she went to Amit. And Amit has these 3 levels. And one of them is, like Jen said, the regular track. And then there's the Midrasha track, the Beit Midrash. And that's for girls who are like a bit more religious, but they want a serious, also secular education. And that's my daughter. And then there's the ones that want like a little bit more Torah-y type education, which is another level. The thing that I didn't like about this school is that they had a different dress code for each of those segments at the same school. And I don't agree with that. That's my personal opinion. I think it messes with their heads and it creates segmentation in the school. My daughter didn't hit it off there. In the end, what we did was her and one of her friends that also wasn't hitting it off there, whose parents are also religious, but very educated and very committed to having a strong background in the sciences and math. We looked across the area to find other options because, like I said, Pelek was full. We couldn't get in. And there is a school called Kvutzat Yavne, which is the national religious high school for the religious kibbutzim in this area. And you have to request permission, but you can go. And I have been floored and amazed, and it's been wonderful. It's on a kibbutz, there's fresh air. They have to take a bus there, but it's a 20-minute drive. The girls have an all-girls homeroom. All the religious classes are just with girls, with their teacher. And then for classes where they want to have multiple levels, like multiple levels of math or science, that's when you would have co-ed classes. But for my daughter, this has worked beautifully. And the girls have been completely welcoming, charming, and it's been great. So I really think like one of the amazing things about Israel is you can find your place. So even if Rehovot is not your place, it exists here, and there is a place for you, and you just keep looking. So that's what I have to say. There is a couple of other religious girls' high schools, and Sfia, which I don't know a lot about, but maybe somebody else can talk about. That's the other religious girls' high school that's in town, but that wasn't where we fit. So I don't know, Shira or somebody else can talk about it. Do you guys know? No? Okay.
I want to ask a question. I'm sorry, I hope my recording carried on. My Zoom just cut me off, so I hope the recording will continue. I wanted to ask, somebody had asked about a community center and if there's a swimming pool and library, and can somebody share with us a little bit about that?
There is a swimming pool. It's called Weitzman, and there's 2 separate pools there. One is like open for everyone during all of their hours, and then there's the other pool that has separate women's hours and men's hours. There's also a community center, but I've never been there. So I don't really know so much about it. And maybe somebody else knows.
Is there
also
There's also
Weitzman is, even though it's more expensive, if you work in high tech, you can get a discount. Or if your kids have special needs, you can also get a discount.
And there
I was
are
gonna say, there's also a
libraries.
school in Givat Brenner that's a little bit outside of Rehovot. And I haven't been there, but I've heard it's nice and a bit cheaper than Weitzman Pool.
And if you have a car, you can get there, but if you don't, it's not going to be feasible.
And there are libraries, the public libraries have very small children's English sections. I don't know about the adult English section. Khatam has a really large English library that has adult and children books. There's a ton of parks. It's a nice park city. We have it's really, they put a lot of effort into the parks and maintaining them. The streets are really well maintained. I think it's like a priority for Rehovot to maintain the city. So there's lots of different opportunities for that.
Maybe less so in Rehovot Hamada, the new neighborhood.
Well, they're still figuring out how to make that work.
And
But there's a children's library in the Bermans, like near the science neighborhood, that's called Beit Michal, and they have a lot of books also. That's really, it's actually like right outside of Berman, so it's really easy to get to, and it's right near Takamoni.
And Beit Michal has a lot of English books too, a lot of English books. And there's tons of gyms, like the chains of gyms that are all over the country. Whether Holmes Place, one of their nicest gyms is in Rehovot. So, and it's mostly adults. Like it's not one of the ones that allow like a lot of small kids, if that's something you're looking for. So yes, so Holmes Place is nice. There's Go Active. There's tons of all the chains of gyms that you see around the country for very reasonable prices.
There are all smaller gyms as well that are like just for women or just for men, if that's what you're looking for as well.
Definitely.
And we have a mall, so none of us mentioned that, but we have a mall. All the other regular stores, so.
A nice mall, a nice mall.
Somebody told me there's a shuk. Yeah, somebody said there's
Yeah.
a great fruit and vegetable shuk.
Yeah.
And that's within Rehovot itself?
Yeah, right outside the mall, actually.
And
Open
Bilu,
every day?
Yeah, it's right outside the mall. It's like in front of the mall. There's a shuk.
and Bilu is like outlet shopping, which is like 6 minutes away, like outlets. So you have kids, you have teens, they'll be at Bilu, they'll be at the mall. Like that's where they'll be shopping for sure. And the teens, like I never grew up in a place where I was comfortable with public transportation. At 16, we got cars, you know, growing up. But my kids, like, they know public transportation like the back of their hand. Like my 12-year-old has a bus pass and gets herself all over. Well, minus COVID. But yeah, and so does my 15-year-old, my 17-year-old. They're all over the place, all over the country. Even 15, they're going to the beach in Ashdod or going to Tel Aviv to meet friends in the mall, like all over the country, using the bus system and the trains, which is really blows my mind.
Yeah, amazing. I know growing up in South Africa, we never took public transport. So even when I came to Israel, I was amazed that, and from such a young age, my 10-year-old also goes by himself. And I'm like, I think, am I crazy? But this is what everybody does.
It's crazy.
It's a reframe again. It's a reframe completely. But I thank every single person for coming on. It really sounds like such a wonderful place. I haven't been to Rehovot. I'm going to have to come.
Welcome.
And again, I thank everybody for just being so welcoming. And I reach out, you know, on Facebook to people, and people contact me and, Kim, this one wants to come on. You have to have this one on the call. And I'm so glad that it was such a diverse crowd of people, because I think that's what's important. And Yael, I also want to stress, because you touched on something that really, for me, is so important in the real estate world. I never just sell a house. For me, it's never about a house. And I've said this so many times to those who know me on these calls. A house is just 4 walls. You can live in a beautiful house, but if you don't have the community, then there's nothing. That's when it really becomes home, is when you can put that together. And I think that's where people really find their place, is when they find their right community. And so many times I speak to people during my Aliyah conversations, is that I just had a girl now that I was speaking to, and she ended up in a community that is just so not good for her. And she's struggling. And I said, get out of there straight away. You have to, and it is a shidduch, it has to be a match, and it does take time. And that's why, I mean, if you do know your Rehovot and you know friends and family that live there, then, you know, maybe buying is an option straight away. But for a lot of people, that isn't going to be the case, and they'll have to probably rent for a year before they find their place. And I'm telling people this as well, is that sometimes right now with what's going on in the world, there are no pilot trips. So maybe you're going to have to jump in with 2 feet and just say, okay, I'm going to give Rehovot a chance, because, you know, with COVID and what's going on, people are not going to have that luxury of doing a pilot trip, which many people have been able to do in the past. So thank you again for being so gracious and for being so welcoming. And if you don't mind, those of you, people who do want to be in touch with you, and you don't mind if I give out your email address, please let me know if that's okay with everybody. And again, thank you so much. I really hope the recording didn't mess up when I got cut off here. So thanks again, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you to everyone.
Be safe, everybody. And I'll stay on for a few minutes to ask questions if people want to stay on. But thank you all and have a good night. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, Deb.
Hi, Kim. That was so informative. What an incredible community. I can't believe it. Wow.
This is Deborah, who works with me. And,
hey, everybody. I was so inspired by the way everybody spoke. Like, I've never, you've done so many communities, and a lot of them sound very nice, but this is like hands down.
For
Everyone
sure.
is like star quality, and just so excited about everything from the, you know, just the community members, their friends, the shul, the schools, the everything, the shopping, the getting around, the like, I don't know, it seems like a really, really, really very blessed, amazing group of people and tight-knit community.
Very much so.
Sure, I feel very lucky to be here. Everyone's amazing. I mean, I wrote in the chat, like, we're all help each other in emergencies and celebrate with each other for smachot, and it's like a family. It really is. And when somebody has a baby, there's meals for weeks. And what can I do to help you? And Cher was on call in the middle of the night when I was 9 months pregnant and coronavirus times, and we didn't know what was going to happen. And, you know, we all look out for each other, and I've had to call someone 5 minutes before Shabbat and say, you're taking my other kid. I have to go to the hospital with this one, and, you know, drop them off with no diapers or anything. And, you know, we just take care of each other. We're here, you know, without our families, and have become a family. It's really a special community.
Amazing. Wow. It's great.
What I'd asked some people to do, which we never got to do, which I usually do is, and I know everybody's so busy with their kids, if one of you who live in Rehovot could do me a little walk around when you have a moment, even if you send me little snippets of the neighborhood to show people like what the place looks like. I would love it if somebody could do that for me. You know, I'm here outside the mall. I'm here outside the community center. This is Berman Shul, what it looks like. This is Chabad.
I got lost. I came to visit here a couple years before we actually moved here, and I couldn't find it, and I was in tears. So it was like Shavuot and night, and my husband was like, just meet me at the shul. It's easy to find. It was not easy to find, okay?
Oh, my.
So Berman's is actually on Yeshivat Hadarom campus, right?
Berman's
so
is
it's a walled
especially hard to
area,
find.
which is why the kids can run around, right? Like, it's great. It's all green. But yeah, so make sure we know you're coming. We'll make sure you find the right place.
I'm doing a compilation of videos for my community calls, because people are like, okay, we also want to see what it looks like. Eldad, maybe you can send me also, we've spoken about listings so people can see the inside of houses. And, you know, it's so interesting in real estate right now, and I work in Jerusalem, but I'm selling properties sight unseen. And it's the first time I've ever, you know, it's different to selling a project where people are investing and they're buying into a project, buying off plan, but this is secondhand, you know, homes that people are just saying, okay, we want to buy because, and I really feel, I don't know how you feel, but see what's going on, and the prices are going to go up. I think everywhere in Israel, the demand is getting greater. So I think with Aliyah coming, I think the prices of real estate are going to shoot right up. But I hope that Rehovot stays affordable for people. I really do. 'Cause it sounds
I
awesome.
think, Kim, first, Kim, I want to tell you thank you for this great opportunity. And I think people who will come to Rehovot will like it a lot. Like Yael mentioned about Berman, Bemet, the shul is located in the Yeshiva campus. So the kids over there are free to run around and play, and we don't need to worry about them. Both Berman and Khatam are extremely welcoming. I know people who came and joined the communities, and for 2-3 months, they didn't need to have Shabbat dinner at their house because all the time they got invited by the members of the shuls. People give birth, so then, you know, many people give the food and make sure that you know, they have is easy life after the birth. So besides all the infrastructure and the real estate and everything, Bemet Rehovot is extremely welcoming. And I think because it's not such a huge Anglo bubble, so Bemet, it doesn't matter which community you belong to, whether Berman, Khatam, Chabad, there is a very big sense of community here. Real estate, it's true. It's more affordable than Jerusalem and Modi'in and Ra'anana. And I think people can find here great opportunities. And that's all. We're inviting you here to Rehovot.
I know it's a little bit different right now because of coronavirus, but if anyone is in Israel, then there's always opportunity in all of the communities to be set up to come visit. And there's a lot of people I know in each community that open their homes to people who want to visit and check it out, or to be set up with meals for families that are similar to theirs. So if anyone is here and wants to check it out now or in the future, then feel free to be in touch with any of us.
That's amazing. It's amazing. Is there a hotel or anything close by? Like an Airbnb, or are there any like bed and breakfasts or anything?
I think we all fight over the Airbnbs. Like if anybody has a bar bat mitzvah and they have family coming in, everybody's like scrambling, like where's the Airbnbs at? Because there really isn't a lot. There is one hotel, like a big, like a nice one in Park Hamada. But if you're religious, it's not really good. Like usually you're going to stay with friends of friends, and that's also where the community really kicks in.
We've all hosted each other's friends' families. I've had someone's mom stay with us, and we all host each other. It's like very helpful.
That sounds amazing. And what about senior citizens? Any like kind of retirement complexes or assisted living?
I don't know if there's assisted living. Maybe Eldad can speak to it. I know that like there's people that come that are retired, and they'll come for like a few months, and then they kind of like socialize. Like there's, you know, they meet the, you know, the other people's children who are also living here. They come and they stay for a few months, and then they create their own social circles. My mother-in-law does that. She comes for like a month to 2 months at a time, and she knows people in the community because she's been coming every summer for several years. And they do things together.
She stays with you, yeah? She stays in your house?
Yeah, she stays in my house. Usually she comes in August. It's very hot, but thank God she doesn't mind. And it's wonderful. And she meets other Anglo retired people that are either visiting or have decided to live here now as well, now that they're retired. And people have found apartments and stuff, but I don't know if there's like an assisted living facility like there is in the States. No, Eldad, is there such a thing in Rehovot for Anglos?
No, not something that I know, but one thing I wanted to mention that in the community center that Jane mentioned, that there is all kinds of activities for kids. There are also activities for senior citizens, and actually there is a very large group of Anglos, people who made Aliyah 20, 30 years ago, and now they're 60s, 70s. That once a week they have a meeting over there, and they're watching movies. They the guest speakers coming. Sometimes they go to field trip. Of course, everything is before the Corona time, and this is really, really nice. And hopefully after the Corona, it'll continue like that.
I have a lot of people that are asking me, you know, who want to make Aliyah, but one of their biggest concerns is leaving their parents, which they don't want to do. So it's a very important thing for me when I'm asking, is because there's a need for it. So, I just spoke to a new developer who's building something, and I said, you need to take into account, there should be, taking into account senior citizens who are coming that do need housing opportunities or some sort of assistance. I don't know. It's something I think that Israel will probably have to embrace more as well, with an older population coming in.
I do want to say that there are old age homes in Rehovot. We have one right here in this neighborhood, but they're not Anglo. So it depends what you need, right? Like they're definitely, I know of at least 2, maybe 3 that are around the city. They do have old age homes, assisted living homes, but that's what I'm thinking of. There's just the Anglo part. You'll find 1 or 2 people that are Anglo there, but like it's not an Anglo community.
I get it.
I think what people do is they hire like a metapelit. Like a lot of times the Anglos, like they're going to have an apartment or they're going to live with their children, like in a larger apartment where they have their own space, and they will have like a caregiver that comes and takes them out and takes care of them during the day. I think this is what the Anglos would do in this community. At least that's what I've seen. I haven't seen them going into old age homes.
Right. Well, thank you so much. I am so impressed by this community. And again, thank you so much all for coming on. Really, really special. And if anybody wants to come to Jerusalem, I'm in the old city, you're welcome to come and say hi.
Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you very much.
Everybody. God bless and keep safe.
You too.
Take care.
Amen. Thank you.
Good
Brachas
night.
to everybody. Blessings
Bye-bye.
to everyone.
Amen. Take care, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.